Good evening. I am Steve, and this is my rock and metal life, whatever you may think of that. Tonight, it's kind of on this date, but also a big journey back through one of the bands that I've spent a lot of time and money watching and listening to over the years because today is, what would that be, 23 years? I'm sorry, 33 years since I saw Motley Crue on the Dr. Feelgood tour, and this was on February 20th of 1990. And I was all in on Motley Crue from as far back as when I first heard of them when their Too Fast for Love came out, not on Leather Records, but when it came out on Elektra. I had that when I was in high school, and it was very strange. While I was in the military, we crisscrossed the country at opposing times, and I never got a chance to see him until finally Dr. Feelgood came through. And so I was actually back in Fresno after just getting out of the military, probably 6 months before, and went to the arena where I saw all my shows when I was in high school. It was my first time going there since I had joined the military and spent 6 years there. So quite a few years had gone by, and I went back, and that's why I've got a lot of my Motley Crue apparel here, and it all kind of starts on Dr. Feelgood because I didn't see him prior to that. And so this one here, this is the shirt I got that night, and I used to wear this to work at one of my jobs, and I kind of wondered why people freaked out over what it said, but whatever. And it had sleeves on it. I have no idea why I did that. I don't know when I did it. I don't know why I did it. I'm thinking possibly alcohol was involved, but anyway. So I still got that guy, and then I got all these other ones here. I've got this is like on a greatest hits tour. I want to say like '99. I don't know what year that was, but we got Randy Castillo on here. Tommy Lee's out of the band. And I got a couple of Generation Swine shirts, which, who knows how that came to be. And then here's a Decade of Decadence shirt. And, I was so all in with Motley Crue. I would say their arc from Too Fast for Love up until Dr. Feelgood is just, that's as good as you can do. And I was in lockstep with them. And then in the 90s, they had similar to troubles to other bands. And, I was still in. I didn't follow along with the John Corabi record. And in fact, I've only recently purchased that on CD, like within the last, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years. Over the years, I didn't have it. I listened to it online, quite a bit, and it is a really good record. But yeah, I was all in with these guys until things got strange, and Vince leaves, and just like Van Halen, just like Iron Maiden, just like Judas Priest, you go through these periods where kind of disarray, and with Motley especially, the strange things that they did were really strange, and I'm not even talking about, like, say, when Vince had the car wreck where he killed the guy for Hanoi Rocks, Razzle. That's rough, and nobody likes that, and but it happened. It was part of their arc, and but all this peripheral stuff, when they kind of went down like a Kiss kind of road in a way. And actually, that's the reason I'm pointing all this out is at one point in the 90s, they set up a shop on, I think it was on Melrose in Hollywood, and it was called Screw, like S apostrophe Crew. And, good enough reason for us to drive down there. So we went down and we checked it out. And, you know, Nikki and Vince both had their own clothing lines. Nikki's was Outlaw, I guess, world fucking wide. And then Bad Bones Illegal was, Vince. And I bought these, I wore them. As you can tell, they're kind of run down. I don't know You know, I don't know if that's like freakish to be in on that level, but I did. I followed along with pretty much everything they did. I like the Vince Neil solo records. And then, you know, the 90s was such a weird time. So before I get to the concert, I just want to bring it all up to date. You know, they had the run up to Dr. Feelgood, and, you know, life was just wonderful in 1989. Uh, the big time records are going mega big, and, you know, they're enjoying all this success and everything's good. And then for the Crue, after Feel Good in 89, and they toured forever. I saw them, as I said, in the early part of 90. And then they came out with Decade of Decadence. And if I am correct on that, I believe that's where we got Primal Scream, is it not? And yes, Primal Scream's on here. And that's probably, you know, that's in my top 5 of theirs. Maybe, you know, it might be in the top 1. I really like that song, and it's a killer concert song. But then, so what happens after that? Well, you know, Vince leaves, and, you know, you got all this Pam and Tommy stuff. And yes, I'm really proud to say that I've got, you know, I went to a local video store here and picked this thing up at the time, and then, you know, I got the Decade of Decadence VHS here. You know, Tommy Lee Goes to College. You know, and I'm mixing all this up. All the weird things that these guys have done. I didn't actually buy this. I won this on a radio station call-in, this Tommy Lee CD. I don't know the time frame here. It's 2000s, I'm sure. But this is, I'm almost certain this is the worst CD I have by anybody. And you know, throw in all the cassettes and the vinyl records I have, I think this is the worst thing I've got. And if it's not, I'm scared to go out there and find what I have that is. This thing actually had a sticker on it that said, and it's true, it says you're not allowed to, this won't play in your computer, because if it goes in your computer, you could copy it. You know, and that's one of those deals like, you know, you used to go to concerts and you couldn't take a camera, and now everybody takes a camera. And I remember in that transition period, I went to an LA gun show here in town, and it was, you know, we're talking 20 years ago probably. And I remember they checked us, they told us leave your cell phone in the car, and I honestly, I didn't understand why. Like, why, you know, I had a small kid that we left, you know, at the babysitter, you know. I was like, why can't I have my phone with me? And the security told me, well, there's some phones you're able to take pictures with. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I heard about that. Okay. All right. Well, whatever. So I left my phone in the car. And that's kind of what this is, you know. Hey, you can't play this on your computer because we're afraid, you know, you might copy it and give a copy to somebody that likes it or something, whatever. But anyway, yeah, they had a weird arc. And, you know, if you go along beyond my 1990 Dr. Feelgood show, you know, they did the Karabi thing, didn't do real well. Went gold according to what I'm looking at here. Vince comes back, Generation Swine, yeah, you know, and I went and saw that concert. Went to San Diego to see that one, and it was a good show, and it was, you know, we're talking about 97. You know, it just feels good. You know, oh, Vince is back, and, you know, the arena was full. It's just like the old days, you know, things are going to be good again, but not for a few years at that point. And then they did New Tattoo in 2000, and I bought that one, and that was, you know, Swine and New Tattoo were like, you know, trying to like these. Yeah, there's some good songs on here, yeah. And then Saints of Los Angeles in 2008, I was out by then. I don't have any of the live records. I've got these two compilations. I got this Greatest Hits that came out in 98, and I also have the Decade of Decadence that I already held up. And then all these, I think they got 9 studio albums and 8 compilations, and then 3 live records according to this. So, you know, and the box sets. So good for them, you know. I mean, good for them if they can pull that off. You know, you go to a record store, if you can find one, you look at Jimi Hendrix, there's like rows and rows and rows of all this Jimi Hendrix stuff, and the guy only put out a few albums in his lifetime. You know, good for them. You know, good, if there's a demand for it, good. I applaud that, I guess. I know some people say, oh, they're gouging the fans or whatever, but nobody's really making you buy, your third, fourth, and fifth greatest hits record. So whatever. I'm glad the popularity's there. And maybe it means, they've kicked over to a new generation or age group. I don't know. Whatever. What they did for me personally, from Too Fast for Love to Dr. Feelgood, that's pointy. That's a career right there. And if I had to rank them, I don't know if I should even do this. Shout at the Devil's clear number one for me. And then I'm going to say Feelgood's second, because I really like that record. And I know it's got a little different feel than the raw stuff, like the punkish stuff on Too Fast for Love. And, Shout at the Devil was pretty straight ahead and hard hitting. And, I like Dr. Feelgood. I did like the party time feel, that they had on there. After that, man, I hate to say this, but Too Fast for Love was kind of, I was so into it when I came out. And when I was the only person in my high school that I knew of that had it. And when I joined the military, I hung out with the Hard Rockers, of course. And only me and one other guy had it that we knew of. And we would play that in somebody's car. And, the other guys would go, who's this? And, oh, my God, they had a record before Shout at the Devil. I had it because I saw it in, what was that? It was a Circus magazine where they did the review, and it had the picture. And it says, looks like Kiss, sounds like Van Halen. And that was good enough for me. I went and bought it. And, I like it. I do like it. But as far as, just totally kicking my butt, it's not the same as it always was. I always like... Livewire, of course. I love Starry Eyes, and Take Me to the Top is a favorite. Piece of Your Action. That's those are probably the top there, and then after that, I remember we used to say Merry Go Round sounded like Aerosmith, and I don't know if that's exactly true, but. Too Fast for Love, I could take it or leave it. Come On and Dance, yeah, it's all right. I'm with the Show I kind of like, but, I don't know. That one kind of dropped on my list. So we're here in, we got a clear number one and number two for me, and then, man, Too Fast for Love. I really like Theater of Pain, even though Vince says it's like almost all filler. And what's funny is I like Theater of Pain, but I can't stand Smoking in the Boys' Room. I don't know. Didn't need to do it. To me, that sounds like filler. But I think that's one of the ones he's like really proud of. But anyway, so I think I go Theater of Pain 3, Too Fast for Love 4, Girls, Girls, Girls 5. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I guess. And then the other ones are, forget it. I haven't even heard Saints of Los Angeles. I like the one song they play in concert, but maybe that's shame on me, but anyway. So, there's my journey with Motley Crue. I was a huge fan. Wasn't able to see them just because they were never where I was, except for they came to Florida. They came close by when I was down there, but I was in a school to where I had to do these mandatory extra study hours because my grades were low. I was trying to make it through the program I was in, and I was struggling, and they came with Ozzy when Ozzy was on Bark at the Moon, and my buddies went and I didn't, and it was like I made the choice of I know it's a special night, I know this doesn't happen very often, but I really got to get through the school, and so that was that. And then I never saw them again. They never came anywhere near until this show. And so I do remember going to this show, and they had Faster Pussycat opening for them, and I was a big fan of Faster Pussycat at the time. However, at least some people up front were not, because I'm telling you, I was like facing the stage. I was in the seats on the side, and I don't know, I was like maybe one section back off of the stage. That was kind of my go-to in the old days. That's where if I think this one had seats on the floor, and I think I just sat on the side. But anyway, so I'm on Nikki's side of the stage, back a little bit. But when Faster Pussycat's out there, I'm telling you what, man, Tame Me Down was getting like drenched with spit. And I don't know what started it, and I don't know how, you know, I don't know. All I know is he's up there, and, you know, and he's singing. They're playing a good set, and you know, I see these guys spitting on him, and I mean, it's plain as day. You see spit coming up, and it appeared to me there was like several guys like making a game out of it, you know. And he, you know, he said something to him, you know, he pointed to him, pointed to security and all that. And at one point, I think he stopped the song and said, "That's it. This guy's got to go right here." And you know, I always wondered about that, because I wondered, you know, is this something that just kind of happened organically, or is you know, I wondered, is there something between like Faster Pussycat fans and Motley Crue fans, or, you know, that I didn't hear about because I was in the military or something. I don't know. And so I don't know what the deal was with that. It was kind of sad, you know, big full arena, and, you know, Faster Pussycat comes out and they're kicking ass, and then, you know, these guys won't stop spitting on Tammy. I mean, my goodness, it was pretty bad. So anyway, they did their set, and then the Crew comes out, and this is one of those that when I left, I immediately, like in the afterglow of the show, I put it in my discussion of, you know, was this the best one I ever saw? And like I say, I was really in on Dr. Feelgood. Dr. Feelgood was kind of, it was kind of like their Hysteria. It was like, you know, single after single after single, and they all rode the charts. And I just, you know, that was perfectly okay with me. You couldn't give them enough success as far as I was concerned. This is like the crescendo of them. You know, their career has built to this point, and they're way up there. And, you know, and you look, they had, you know, Dr. Feelgood was a single, Kickstart My Heart, and then Without You, I don't really care for that one too much. Don't Go Away Mad, Just Go Away, Same Old Situation. You know, and the singles came out and extended the life of the record, you know, for being on the charts, you know, just months and months and months. And I was really happy for that, and couldn't wait to see them. And then when they come on, you know, after Faster Pussycat does their set, regardless of the, you know, the guys spitting on Tammy, you know, Motley Crue's got this set that, you know, Faster Pussycat didn't have any of that, you know, and it's a stark contrast. And I've talked about this before, how the headliner seems to like just physically dwarf the opener no matter what. And you know, Crew comes out with Kickstart My Heart, and, you know, brilliant, you know, perfect opener. And I remember really clearly, I remember the second song was Red Hot, and they did all the lights, and, you know, you start with that drum beat and everything, and you know, this thing like really rolled. This concert really rolled with set list says they did Rattlesnake Shake and Too Young to Fall in Love, and then Shout at the Devil and Livewire. You know, I mean, that's the first 6 songs right out of the box. They're just like bam, you know, right between the eyes. Audience going insane. And to me, it just seemed like every little thing, you know, their stage setup was cool. I remember the backup dancers, which, you know, are just like elite stripper looking girls, you know, doing the backup dancing and choreographed and all that. And you know, every little thing about it was like, you know, this is a Crew set. This is them. You know, they brought the strip club with them. You know, and it's the bar. It's the, you know, the ass kicking bar and everything, and it's a rock concert. And to me, it was just, you know, I often wonder when I go to a show like this, you know, how do they do this every night? How do they, you know, I kind of get it. You know, if you fire it all off, you know, well, you're just right back doing what you did a couple nights before. You know, this thing's really, you know, the adrenaline and all that stuff's probably just, you know, it just kicks in, and the audience is fueling, you know, the performance and so on. But anyway, there's your first 6 songs. You know, they do Livewire, and you know, the only thing they did off of Feel Good at that point was Rattlesnake Shake, which I like that song quite a bit. But then it says they did Same Old Situation. I remember them playing that, and then guitar and drum solo, and Looks That Kill, smoking in the boys' room, like I said, I don't care for it, but there's no way they're not going to do it. And that's another one. Like I mentioned with the Scorpions with the zoo, I'm kind of tired of it, but when they do it live and everybody's into it, that's kind of how smoking in the boys' room was. And then Wild Side and Girls, 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 and they've done all this, and then they finish with Home Sweet Home and then Dr. Feelgood. And I remember like the Dr. Feelgood, the ending of it, it was just like a circus. It's like the shows. I don't remember if they dropped confetti or balloons or anything like that. I can't remember. But it was just, it was the big finale. They came to town, they dominated, they ruled, the whole thing, we partied with them, that kind of thing. And then that was it. And that was a great show. And, the funny thing about, I had not seen them up to that point. Well, I saw them a bunch of times after that. I saw them when they did that greatest hits thing without Tommy Lee in '98. I saw them then. I saw them with the Scorpions one time. And the other thing too is like this. You may have observed, this is my Vince Neil shirt that I bought at. There was a Rock Never Stops tour one year. I want to say it was Vince Neil, Jackal, Slaughter, I think. And so I saw that, and then just I don't know, 5-6 years ago, there was a big all-day festival at the Irvine Meadows Amphitheater, and Vince Neil headlined that. And it just seems like I've seen these guys a bunch. We went to San Diego for that Generation Swine tour when Vince came back. Good times, good shows. And then when we saw him the last go around with Alice Cooper on what was allegedly the last tour, Vince didn't sound so good, but I feel weird, like criticizing a guy because I'm getting older, I'm putting on weight, I don't look like I did even 5 years ago, but I'm not the lead singer of Motley Crue, and he's out there with that big gut, and it kind of takes the shine off it a little bit because I remember when he was this, but again, as I've said repeatedly, what was it supposed to look like, for these guys when they were young and crazy and could do anything? And how were they supposed to age? I don't know. But Vince, he's had his struggles with his voice, and if you do the YouTube things where they do the voice change over the years, and we just did John Bon Jovi and Axl Rose, and we've done a couple of those lately, and it's wow. A lot of times you go to the concert and it's not what it was, but hey, pretty good. But when you do something like that, you watch like a 5-minute video where they go from 1983 to recently. Whew, quite a change. And the whole band's tuned down and everything. And yeah, but Vince. Once upon a time, probably one of the very best frontmen I ever saw. He's up there with David Lee Roth and Janie Lane. The one time I saw Warrant with Janie Lane, he was absolutely fantastic. But Vince, killer frontman on this tour here, and I think they were at the height of their powers. I don't know if they were still off the booze and everything, and if they were or if they weren't, I don't know how that factored into it. But this thing was a show. I mean, it was a show and a party, and a greatest hits set that I couldn't have been happier with. And yeah, I can sit here and say, why didn't they play, this or that? But this set right here is just fine. That's they had quite a lot in the arsenal, and they could have hit you with even more stuff, but it was a great show. So good times with Motley Crue. Kind of sad to see, for me, like how it's gone, more recent times. And I don't even care for the whole farewell tour when we all know they're coming back. They said like coded language at the time of, well, actually we signed a contract that said we wouldn't. I can't remember what. We didn't say we wouldn't. Go on tour. We said we wouldn't. play concerts on the road with each other on stages in front of people, some double talk, which you knew they were going to come back. You knew they were going to do it. And I don't know why you got to do that. We're still here. I thought it was kind of unnecessary, but whatever. So anyway, 1990, what was it, 33 years ago? Great night at Selland Arena. And I think it was my last one at that little arena, because they built the big Save Mart Center here that's got probably holds more than 15,000 people. Selland Arena was a little thing that held, for a concert, you could maybe get 10,000 in there. And this was my last one there until Heaven and Hell, in 2007. So I didn't know it at the time, but it was going to be the last one for a long, long time. And it was good to have the memories of where I saw my first ever show, Van Halen. I saw, all my high school, almost all of my high school shows were there. Ozzy Osbourne, Triumph, Sammy Hagar, those guys. So yeah, great show. Motley Crue on top of their game. Great album, great tour, great show. Dug every minute of it.